Glamour.
Grit. Glamour.
Grit. Glamour. Grit.
Okay, so normally I feel like we have a lot of fun on here. We don't take ourselves too seriously, but I do want to talk about something I feel is very important as summer approaches, and it is a good reminder. June is National CPR Month, and I know you have fun vacations planned, pool days to enjoy, and memories to be made. But please, brush up on your CPR knowledge. To make this easy, Texas Health has a website with a very fun video with a bossy coach that breaks down the CPR process and reminds us that hand-only CPR is simple to learn and easy to do. It might be the first line of care you can provide someone, even a child, during what could be a very scary situation. No one ever thinks it could happen to them or their family until it does. That's why Texas Health is asking all of North Texans and everyone who listens to be a braver lifesaver. Check out the videos today at braverlifesaver.com. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Glamour and Grit. Y'all, I am so freaking excited about today's episode because it is Celebrity Monday. And Celebrity Monday today, I'm feeling very influenced by these epic ladies of mine. This episode is Fort Worth influenced because these three women are next level. Like, they inspire me every single day to be chicer, to be healthier, to be cooler, to be everything that is great. So I want to introduce Katey McFarlan, Becca Pollock, and Taylor Dukes. Welcome to the Glamour and Grit.
Woo! Thank you for having us.
You'll never hear so many jingle, jingle, jingle of all of our jewelry.
I know. Usually when you go on a podcast, they're like, or media, they're like, no big jewelry, nothing that's going to clank on. I'm like, oh, I'm sitting by Becca. We're fine.
Yeah. Ching, 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 ching,
I have like
ching.
12 bracelets.
Bring in that ching, ching, baby. Okay, so Eric and I do this thing at each of our podcasts, and it is the most embarrassing thing. Oh, listeners, I didn't even realize there is somebody missing today. And that is Mr. Eric Nelson. And this is usually his job because literally I am like Leah Michelle and I cannot read. So Eric likes to do the intros. But I decided today to do this on my own because I think there's something special about women chat and just us chatting as women. Mm-hmm. And I felt like I sounded like Moira from Schitt's Creek. That was like my I'm obsessed. So Eric usually reads these, so if I stutter or any of that, don't make fun of me. I'm dyslexic. So let's start at the end. Katey McFarlan, which is our sweet thing, is doing this pregnant with her third child, is the creator behind Chronicles of
Frivolity, baby.
Frivolity. I keep calling it Frivolosity. I'm already messing this up. A lifestyle blog that embraces all things beautiful and uplifting. COF partners with national and global brands to ensure media impressions are reached for advertising campaigns. Katey started her blog in 2013 and was able to pioneer in the digital content creation space through influential marketing. Yes, baby. She was an early adopter to sign with LTK, which I just got on. Follow our LTKs. She was the first influencer to design a ceramic collection for Mackenzie's Child. And I have a story about Mackenzie's Child. The first time that Corbin Blue, which, I think by the time this airs is one of our guests, he came into my house and he was like, whoa, Alice in Wonderland threw up all over this house because everything was black and white. And so now I think of Mackenzie's Child, I think of Alice in Wonderland. And she has worked with brands such as Neiman Marcus, Nordstrom, Amazon, Mackenzie's Child, QVC, L'Oreal, Sephora, and more. She is the queen of influencing, of blogging, of everything. Katey posts something, and y'all, that you're allowed to cuss. That shit sells out in like 2.5 seconds.
She's like Oprah.
You are the Oprah of Texas.
It is. Yeah. Because I just want to give it all away. I want to be like, you get a lip gloss and you get a lip gloss and you get a canister and you get this.
You get all the things. So that is our Miss Katey. Next up, we're going to go around this way, is Miss Becca Hale Pollock is the owner and buyer at Hale House, Inc. with over 20 years of experience helping women enrich their lifestyle through clothing, home decor that bring out their personalities. And that is true. If you look at her, she is all personality and beautifulness. Specializing in women's apparel and gifts, Becca uses the experience to source and offer fashionable clothing and curated gifts while providing expert-level styling and outfit inspiration at her boutique on Camp Bowie and online shop halehouse.com. Hale House has garnered some recognition by Fort Worth Magazine, The Boutique Hub, Shops Across Texas, and Paper City Magazine.
Yes.
Okay, she is truly actually, we went on vacation this year in Seaside, and Seaside is based off of the Jim Carrey movie. Oh, yeah, what's that freaking Jim
Truman Show?
The Truman Show. And it's actually perfection. And we were walking around, everywhere we walked around, they were like, are you Becca Pollock from Hale House? Are you Becca Pollock from Hale House?
Like I don't get recognized at like work events or Fashion Week or anything. They stop me and they're like, do you work for Hale House? Because sometimes I'll model for her and I'm like, yes, I do. She pays me in clothing.
Amen. And the biggest giver truly the most giving human on this earth. I'm always like, oh, I like that. And then all of a sudden,
it's on your porch.
Yes, it is on my porch, in my size, ready to go, no expectations. And I will say, we've talked about this in the podcast in the past, that when Mick was sick, I just felt like I lived in the land of black and white, and not even the white part. I just only wore black, and I feel like I was coming from New York, you're always in black. And I will say the biggest thing that Becca brought into my life was color. And she brought I think it was Goldie Hawn that said that she had to relearn happiness. And I felt like Becca was a part of my journey of relearning happiness. Aww. And now I'm a walking Hale House ad. All right, and our last guest here, this amazing woman to my left, or I guess you're looking at me to my right. Miss Taylor Dukes is a board-certified family nurse practitioner with more than 12 years of functional medicine experience. Taylor has dedicated her life to helping countless people discover root cause health for gut issues, skin conditions, autoimmune diseases, and more. Since 2019, she has started her own functional medicine private practice, co-founded a wellness center, and curated her own health and wellness lines of supplements, protein powders, which they are the best freaking protein powders in the world. Eric and I are actually addicted, and your kids can have them. And more. In 2022, Taylor was recognized as one of the top 40 under 40 influential leaders in Fort Worth and influential people in my life.
So was Katey. That's where we met.
Yeah. So it's very Fort Worth influence. So now I'm going to throw this down. So hopefully you're not able to see my Spanx in the video, because I always have to sit crisscross applesauce, and I might be showing my Spanx. But I'm wearing undies. Taylor, is truly, is this everything that I am?
This is everything and then some.
I should be sponsored by Spanx or Skims. I'll take either. I like to tuck everything up and under. Suck and tuck, baby.
Suck it, baby.
Taylor Dukes is one of the most brilliant, kind, smart, Jesus, I've never in my life. So you see all those people that live this life of wellness, and then there are the people that actually live the life of wellness. And you really live that life, embrace that life. I think I'm going to start with you. How did this all begin? This journey of wellness. Were you ever a McDonald's eater?
Oh.
I am sitting next to her.
Whataburger.
All the goods.
Yes, all the things in college. I feel like I grew up, my mom was super healthy. So it was we always kind of go back to our parents. Not everybody goes back, but.
Yeah, thanks, Mom.
I went to TCU. I was living on Whataburger, drinking beer, Route 44s at Sonic, typical college.
All the good stuff.
But the way that I got into kind of health and wellness is I got really sick. And I was living abroad. I got real sick, had to get flown back. And I was 21. And I'm supposed to be young and fun and vibrant, the peak of my life, And I was so sick, and I was going to all these different doctors. No one could figure out what was wrong, just giving me pills and prescriptions and procedures. And I'm like, okay, I'll take it all, because I didn't know better, but I'm a nurse at the time. And I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to advocate for my patients, and I can't even advocate for myself. And I'm like, what the heck? My hair was falling out. My skin was a wreck. So I always say people get into the kind of this wellness field because they're either smart and they're ahead of the curve, or they're sick and they're desperate. So I was sick. It was just like, what the heck? And so my parents were like, we want to take you to this, like, it was a medical doctor, but it was more like naturopathic. And I was like, that's woo-woo. That's weird. Like, I don't believe in that.
Totally.
I was like, I didn't learn that in nursing school at TCU. So I just totally thought it was just like woo-woo, and then changed my life. And that's why I was like, okay, changed my life, got off all my meds. Not saying meds are bad. Like, I still prescribe, times and places. She had me change my diet. She had me do all this testing. And I'm like, that literally changed my life. And then it changed the trajectory of my career.
Boots, built for the Western lifestyle by cowboys and cowgirls who live it every day. Their exceptional quality and unmatched attention to detail come from the heart of years of experience. You'll hear people say they don't build them like they used to. Well, the Rios family of brands does. With an unwavering commitment to doing the right things the right way, the company's dedication to family, quality craftsmanship, and the preservation of a history worth sharing is as strong as ever. Find your perfect pair today at any of their retail partners. For a full list of where to shop or to learn more about the Rios family of brands, visit riosfamilyofbrands.com. Step into the proud heritage of the Rios family of brands, a testament to the heart and soul of the American West.
If you have not already made plans to go to the National Cowgirl Museum and Hall of Fame in Fort Worth, Texas, to see their newest exhibition in Escaramuza Chara, the women who ride side saddle executing intricate patterns at a gallop, you still have time. Well, that's a mouthful, but it's worth it. The exhibition runs through December, and they even have a podcast, Conversations at the Cowgirl, which will give you some insight into the sport and its origins, and even a little behind the scenes on how the exhibition is curated. Conversations at the Cowgirl, a National Cowgirl Museum podcast that is available wherever you stream your favorite shows. Follow us on social at Cowgirl Museum for updates, or visit our website at cowgirl.net.
So
Isn't it so weird, though? You study medicine and you're going to be a nurse, and everything that you're learning, is it weird to think, like, in the back of your mind this whole time, you're like, oh, this maybe is not right. This maybe not work. This maybe isn't. Is that kind of so scary to have that feeling? Because I even think of these things like the FDA approves, and we're always saying, don't eat this, don't eat that. And the FDA says this, and I just kind of follow it. I really actually, what you've done is do the research and dived in to why it's either being approved or shouldn't be approved. I'm the type, I'm like, popping the pill, calling it a day. Like, is that so wild, studying it and then studying kind of the opposite end of it?
It's weird, and it's not something I ever thought I would do. And my personality, I'm not a challenger. I'm not like, well, then show me the evidence. It just, I think after going through my sickness and going to every different type of traditional doctor, I went to gastro, endocrinologist, rheumatologist. No one could figure out answers. And so it's kind of like, dang, our medical system, like, they're really focused on just Band-Aid approach. Like, you have a symptom, here's your treatment, And it doesn't really ask the why question of like, well, then why are you having IBS, or why are you anxious? Why can't you sleep? And I feel like that's the field that I got into because I was sick. It's like, okay, but why am I having these issues when I'm 21? And so I feel like most people probably don't even care about their health until something bad happens. Do you know?
And it is so freaking true. Like,
Yes.
I always wore sunscreen. If our listeners know, I was diagnosed with a melanoma, and I've always been very cautious of my skin. But now I'm like psycho. Like, I wear sunscreen. My kids wear sunscreen every second. It's so true until you actually get hurt by the bug. You don't, or the C word. You don't. And I never thought, when I think of the C word, I think of it different. I think of see you next Tuesday. I never thought of like the cancer word. And so it was so weird changing the C word to the cancer word, because it's a word you never, ever want to hear. And will you tell our listeners kind of what happened within this past year? You just had your 1-year anniversary of surgery.
Yeah. So, which is crazy, like a year and 2 months ago. But I was diagnosed with brain cancer, and I didn't have symptoms, which when people hear that, it was like the scariest thing ever. Like, Taylor, the person who is the picture of health and wellness, she's the one that has cancer. But yeah, I was gifted a full body preventative scan, and it was just in exchange for like, hey, you have an online presence, you have a private practice, a wellness center. We're moving to, they're a company that was based in LA at the time, and Pernuvo's the scan company. And so they got a location in Irving, and they were like, we want to promote it, and will you just like take a picture, no strings attached, like, we're not paying you, it's just, we'll give you this expensive scan. And I was like, okay, sure, whatever. I was feeding my 10-month-old, breastfeeding my 10-month-old. Life was good, feeling good. So they found a brain tumor, which I was like, wrong person. Like, I know all the symptoms. I'm a nurse practitioner. Like, you have seizures, vision, hearing, memory, speech. I had nothing, which truly was God's provision to reveal that to me so that I could take action. But yeah, I was diagnosed with brain cancer. And I think a lot of people, it's just scary because it's like, well, she's so healthy. What's going on with the rest of us? But what I always remind people, and what a lot of the providers that I've gone to ask the why question, why'd she have this brain cancer? It really is, it goes back to when I was really sick, 8 to 10 years ago. They said it's likely been growing 8 to 10 years.
Really?
And if you look back at my history and my timeline, that's exactly when I got sick and had all these things. So it was just growing.
Do you think like almost like a parasite?
It was the perfect storm. Parasite was a huge part of it. It was stress, trauma, all kinds of things. It was just the perfect storm. Really, cancer happens when the immune system just can't do what it's supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, God gave us an immune system to go and do what it's supposed to do. And whenever it's suppressed and there's stress and there's trauma and there's toxins, cells go rogue. And so that was my story to a T. So I had brain surgery to remove it February 1st of 2023. It's been a crazy year, hard year.
Wow.
I'm usually optimistic, joyful, like totally trust that the Lord has a plan through this. And I know that, and I've seen him use it, but it's still hard.
Oh my gosh,
it's been
it still
really hard.
sucks.
Yes, totally. And I even look at pictures and videos and I'm like, wait, that's me? Like, that's my story? Like,
Wow.
I look at this girl and I'm like, I'm so proud of you. And then I cry because I'm like, wait, that girl's me.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
But it is crazy.
Now, what was it like telling your children? Because I know most of the time yours is definitely a different story than mine, but Eric, I just kind of threw it on him just because he was there with me when you got. What was that experience like telling your children? Because I know listeners out there, especially young moms, it's a thing you never want to have to tell your kids ever in a zillion years. And then especially we all have ranges from 2, I think our oldest is 7 in this room. And so telling young children is a very different story than telling a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
How did you navigate that? Did you almost have to study too? It's like so much of your worry. You were like, oh my God, I got diagnosed this. I'm worried about myself, but I'm more worried about how I'm going to tell my kids or how this is going to affect our kids. Did y'all have like a guideline, or how did you approach that?
So I do feel like it was a blessing. It is a blessing that they are so young. I really feel like they're protected from it in a lot of ways. Like, they don't fully know. I mean, my son is learning the brain. Our kids are in school together and he's like learning the brain. And he's like, I told my class that mommy had a brain cancer. And I'm like, I hate that word's even like a part of his vocabulary. And he really doesn't know. But we were on family vacation. We were at Cinnamon Shore, just on the coast in Texas, and I got the report that they found the brain tumor. So it wasn't like I was having these symptoms and we were going to doctors, and then it was like we got the news and we got to process. It was like I was on the beach breastfeeding my 10-month-old 10 minutes before, and it was just like, what? So I couldn't really hide it. I mean, I was obviously crying and tearful and upset. And Ryder, my oldest, it was his 3rd birthday weekend at the time. And so he just kept being like, what's wrong? Why are you sad, mommy? And I just said, mommy's kind of sick, but mommy's going to be okay. And we never had this like sit down conversation, like, mommy's going to have brain surgery, because I feel like because of the age, it require a lot of explaining. But when I went to go have brain surgery, that was hard. It was like, mommy's not going to be able to lift and mommy has to sleep a lot. And,
And you go away so often with all these different treatments and procedures. Is that so hard? Because I know that's something I want to dive into with all of us, is being working moms and going away and the guilt that, it's not our choice.
Mm-hmm.
I think people think so much of the time it's like, we don't want to leave.
Yeah.
And we don't want to have to do these things. Do you still feel like that weighs heavy on your heart, is just in the sense of leaving? And they'll get it. They'll realize. I always feel like a good parent is somebody that your child can see that we do advocate for ourselves. So how are our kids supposed to advocate for themselves if they can't see us advocate for our own selves?
Mm-hmm.
We do advocate for them, but our lives, my parents always said to me that her and my dad came first. And then we would find our people. And then they would come first with us. My husband or my partner would come first. And the kids, they were like, we need to show y'all are our lives, but you can't be our whole lives. Because y'all need to go find your lives, with your partner.
Sure.
And so it's such an interesting way to see that. And it's such a selfless thing that you did. And now where are you at right now in your process?
So, and I think for all of us, it's like there are so many sacrifices, and I think we'll get into it like you said, but a lot of people are like, oh, their life is glamorous. It's sexy. It's this. And it's like, it comes with a lot of sacrifice. And
The glamour and grit.
I know that our kids will see that and like respect that one day. But right now it's hard. They don't understand why mommy has to go away to whether it's, what is it called when you go to
the market.
So market, yes.
Yeah,
It's like when you go to do that, you have to do that when you're doing filming stuff.
Totally.
And, you're doing collaborations with companies. It's like we don't want to leave, but we do it because we also love our career and our children. And for me, I had to leave a lot for, thankfully, like Lord willing, I'm kind of done with a lot right now. Like I'm like, hopefully I only have to do one major trip this year for health stuff. But like I did, I've gone to a lot of treatment centers and specialist and surgery. I'm extra. I went all over the country and outside the country because I'm like, I just want to be the healthiest I can be and
when
live
you
a long
became
life.
like a leader for advocation of
Well, it was a
cancer.
blessing that I didn't have symptoms because most people have a seizure. They go to the hospital and you get whatever neurosurgeon's on call. And for me, I'm like, well, I'm going to do some research. Time is on my side because I have no symptoms. And so, but I will say, going back to the question of just, it's been a lot of sacrifice and leaving them a lot. And that's been so hard because I'm like, if I'm going to leave my kids, I want to be like drinking a pina colada on the beach, having fun. Like I want to go on a romantic getaway with my husband. And for me, it was like, I'm leaving to go do cancer treatment or to go get brain surgery or,
That's not a fun
so
leave.
no, it's not fun. And so like, hopefully moving forward, we'll be able to have more fun. And I'm really big on like family trips. I'm like, let's go make memories as a family. Like our kids are at the age where I'm like, I don't need couples trips. It is important for our marriage and fun, but I'm like, let's bring the kids,
Totally. Let's make these memories together.
Yes.
Because unfortunately, I feel like a lot of your couples trips are going to different treatment centers and having your partner. So I know those probably fun moments. You're like, let's get these babies here.
And we made fun of all the trips. Like even I went to Hope for Cancer, this like wellness center in Mexico, which sounds so sketchy, but I promise it's not.
No, it's unbelievable.
And it's like on the beach. And so I had to wean my baby to go to treatment. Like I was breastfeeding and I couldn't do the treatment breastfeeding. And it was like, that's already emotional,
Sure.
And I didn't breastfeed my first. So I was like really clinging to it with my second of like, we made it 10 months. I wanted to just I could cry, but it was so hard. So I left for a week, which was actually a blessing. I dried up, at treatment. But I told my husband, which seemed ridiculous and it was kind of a lot of money, but it was like, I want them there the second week of treatment. Like I did a 2-week intensive because I was like, they're my why and they're going to get me through. And like, every treatment, I'm like, sorry guys, we're starting emotional. Wasn't planning on tears, but every treatment or little thing that we've done, whether it's Ryan and I or the kids, we really try to make fun of it. Like, we go to California. Ryan will bring his golf clubs. My husband, I went to Arizona to have surgery. We had a spa day. We try to make light of the heavy moments and bring along the kids when we can.
Oh my God, sister. Well, you are an angel and like truly the most amazing human. And you had such a following before this all happened. And now this horrible, horrible thing that happened in your life, you really, though, have given people a light at the end of the tunnel. Because I think a lot of people get these diagnoses and they're just done. Like they just feel like I can't take on anymore. And you've kind of, like I sang this song earlier, always look on the bright side of life. And you look on the bright side. And it really does help because they say so much of the time is the diagnosis, just that word makes you sick.
Mm-hmm.
Even before the sickness makes you sick. Because just so much of it, I feel like is such a mental toll.
Totally.
And it's like, it's not the same. But when Eric and I got COVID, we had no symptoms. Well, all of a sudden, that positive test came up and Eric was like, truly was ill. Deathly ill. Boy was fine 1 minute before that test came out positive.
Yep.
So I feel like so much of the time it is such a mental game that we are dealing with. Katey, I want to go to you for a second. Okay. The start truly of blogging. I always say if we would have gone to this podcast game when I wanted to, shit, Eric.
You'd be retired.
Hey, man, I'd be a podcast gajillionaire by now. But you really were the start of the gajillionaire. You started this whole influencing. Before it was influencing, really was it the blogging that started?
It was blogging. You didn't have an account. Like now they kind of say there's bloggers, there's content creators, there's influencers. And it kind of determines when you started and how you created your platform. Because back then it wasn't follow me on Instagram. That was just like really edited college pictures. It was you created a website and you didn't know if anybody was going to read it.
How'd you decide to do that? Like, did you always love sharing? Like, was your dorm room like perfectly curated and like your life like, because y'all, this girl's house is perfection.
Well, mine was kind of like Taylor's. I had discoid lupus as a child, and I was diagnosed I started getting sick at 12, which is an autoimmune disorder that shows up in the skin. And there's not a lot of pediatric rheumatologists. And so when I was in middle school and everyone's like going to dances and stuff, I was really sick and I had this, you get a butterfly rash on your face and your skin is peeling and your hair is falling out. And so my parents took me to pediatric rheumatologists in Austin and Atlanta and Oklahoma. You kind of have to go all over. And when you go, like Taylor said, it takes years to get diagnosed with autoimmune. And then they kind of say, well, we can give you Plaquenil, but we don't really know if it's going to like cure the symptom. You don't know why you're getting it. And so they'll give you different things to kind of see. And you hear a lot of, I'm sorry, this is what's happening, but I don't know what to tell you. And so mine started eating away at like the cartilage of my nose. And I remember being at a hospital in Atlanta and being told, I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. You need to go to another pediatric rheumatologist somewhere else. And I remember looking at my parents and being like, whatever I do for my job, I don't want to tell people, I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. And so when I went to college, I was definitely a girly girl, loved beauty products and sharing all the things because when I was from 12 to 18, I was trying everything. So while my mom was trying to find answers to heal me internally, I was like, well, I'm going to find creams to fix my rash and different products to help. And there was blogging in the UK at the time. So I would like tell my parents, I'm getting on the internet. You can't use the phone. And I would like look at blogs in the UK.
Oh, yes.
And I would be like, okay. And I would email them and I would be like, can you send me this product? And they were like, who is this child emailing us from Texas asking for this cream that I've shared? And so I would put like swatches all over my room of like different concealers. And I would say like, this lasted this long at school and this lasted. So I was like blogging in my room before that was a thing. So
It's like, what is it when those murder, like when there's a murder case?
Yeah,
and
that's
it's like,
what I look
yes,
like, but with
always
like Bobby
attached-
Brown and everything else. And so when I went to college, still a girly girl, loved doing all that, loved sharing all that with my sorority. But I told my parents, I was like, oh, well, I'll go into nursing. Obviously, like that's how I'll help people. And can't do blood, can't do any of that. So like one semester and call my parents and I was like, this is not going to work. So I was like, I'm going to go into PR and I'll share messaging for brands that help people. And my dad's an engineer, science family. They're like, you're going to do what? And I was like, no, it'll work. It'll work. And so I created a blog in college, but this was before that was like traditional media. It was kind of like, what are you doing? You're not going to get paid doing this. And I went into working at a PR firm. And I think my first semester interning at a PR firm, it was Christmas Eve. Like our agency paid the first blogger to do something for a brand. And at the time, the brand was like, why are we paying a blogger? This doesn't look like, let's pay to get on Good Morning America.
Totally.
Like, let's not pay for this. And she sold it out on Christmas Eve. And that was when I think agencies started seeing like, oh, this works. This actually works. And so I was blogging on the side, working in PR. And so I told my parents, I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to share products that I love. And this was also at the time that like Reward Style was starting. And so there was just chatter in Dallas of people being like, hey, there's going to be this company that we're going to get commission if we sell things. And so my why was kind of like what I went through. And I wanted to tell people like, women are always looking for something on the internet to help them, whether it's a concealer or a product or something to get their baby to sleep or whatever that is. And I just wanted to be the voice to help them find what it was. But it was truly just God's provision, like you said, of like, I had the heart for it with my diagnosis, but right place, right time of working in PR when this was all coming out in Dallas.
Wait, I did not even know the lupus thing.
Yeah,
and I feel like I have been
either.
dear friends of yours forever.
So I went into remission when I graduated college. And now I just have flares when I give birth. So lupus, it's like, you would know, it's like the rule of 3 with hormones. Like you're either going to get better, get worse, or relapse. So usually I give birth and I'll have like about a 6-week relapse. And then thankfully I'm good. But I'm married to like a health nut, Enneagram 8, questions everything, is like, these are bad ingredients. We shouldn't be taking this. So he kind of takes care of me and is like, this is what you need and you're going to get better. But thankfully, I'm good now.
Wow. Okay, I need to ask you, what was it like getting that first paycheck? Do you remember like what brand it was?
Yes.
Did it happen quickly?
Yes. So my dad was which is so funny because my dad now is like the person who's the most proud of me. He's always like, he texted me when we were in Round Top this weekend. He was like, I'm on an airplane sitting next to so-and-so, and he owns this company in Atlanta, and I told him to reach out to you, and you would advertise for them. So he's so proud. But at the time, he was like, what are you doing? And so I remember telling my boss in PR, because I would work all day, blog at night, and I remember putting in my notice in like March, and I just told my parents, I was like, can you give me 3 months? And I wasn't even signed with Reward Style at the time. This was all just happening. And so I told my parents, can you give me 3 months to like match my PR salary? And if I don't match it, then I will go back to PR in the fall. And so, and I did all these kind of oddball things. I would like freelance PR for people and do all these random things to kind of make up for it. But I got my first check to cover a store opening. And I just remember thinking it was the coolest thing. Like, okay, it's going to work. And God really made it work in those 3 months.
Fort Worth is fun for the whole family. That's right. The top-ranked Fort Worth Zoo provides all-day excitement with over 500 different species in almost a dozen habitats, including the Big Cat Habitat, Elephant Springs, African Savanna, and Texas Wild. The Fort Worth Botanical Garden is full of natural masterpieces, curated into beautiful spaces like the Rose Garden, Japanese Garden, and Rainforest Conservatory. Hike, bike, or skate around 100-plus miles of Trinity trails, which take you throughout the city to various hotspots for dining and playing. Plan your stay and find out about unexpected events across the city at fortworth.com. Discover a curated selection of renowned brands that embody luxury and craftsmanship, including Lou Casey, Stetson, Double D, Stallion, and Blackjack, alongside captivating new arrivals and unique brands waiting to be explored. Elevate your wardrobe, elevate your lifestyle. Experience the epitome of luxury at Pinto Ranch. Mention this ad in stores or use code ERICSAINTY, that's ERICSAINTY, at pintoranch.com to receive 20% off your purchase.
Oh my Lanta.
You like did it before it was a thing. That's what's cool is like you almost thought of it before it was like, I want to do this. It wasn't like you saw all these people doing it and you wanted to be them. It was like you created. You're an OG.
But like you see God do those things in your life of like where you looking back and you're like, okay, he gave me a passion for this. He gave me to really want to do this and the passion for it. And then you see how it kind of lines up.
Yeah, but the follow through that's what's huge. Like I always feel like I'm an idea person. Eric always is, I'm like, okay, this is going to work. This is going to work. But Eric, make it happen. Mm-hmm. Or this is going to happen. And but Eric, do this. But you actually, I think with all three of y'all actually go through with it. This podcast is one of the first times I've actually like going through with something that was like an OG idea of mine. I'm always like too scared. And I think I have the voices in my brain where I'm like, don't do it. People are going to judge this or don't. And I want to my dad has been very successful with his business. And I always think like I'm too scared to not be successful. Mm-hmm. So I'd rather not even try than to not be successful. And that is such a horrible way to be. I'm like, if I don't try, then no one can say I did something wrong or did something great. I just didn't do it. Mm-hmm.
I love how you say this, and you are like the only person in the room with a million Emmys, but like
honestly, yeah. Thank you for making me feel so good, sister.
Yeah, where's your intro? I feel like we need to be like, and our friend Sainty, who
I'm just a good time mama. I love me some McDonald's, some 7-Eleven. I love me some Walmart.
So
I'm available. Okay, Miss Becca. How'd it begin? Y'all, Hale House, truly this online presence. I dress the way I dress because I want to be Becca.
Whatever.
Everybody wants to be y'all. Everyone wants to be as healthy as Taylor, as smart and brilliant, as beautiful as Katey, and everything that you are. Miss Becca. I always forget that people are listening and not watching. How did Hale House begin?
Okay.
Or how did you get into this world of boutiques, because there are a lot of boutiques out there. And it's like anytime we have this thing called Cowtown Christmas, which is a zillion boutiques. But to be a successful boutique is extremely hard. I mean, it's like winning the lottery. So how did you win this lottery, girl?
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know if I've won it yet, but
You have in my heart.
well, thank you, girl.
And
thank
y'all,
you.
every Thursday she posts new lines. Y'all, this shit sells out so freaking fast. So yes, you have done it. It's like all of these products, their shit sells. So
Oh my
y'all,
gosh.
sell this blog for me, okay?
Yes, you got it, honey. You got it.
Sell this podcast.
Oh my gosh. I've always been a big shopper. My mom was a shopper. My dad's a shopper. So we always shopped. And so I don't know, like every time that we would go like travel on vacation with the family, we would go to the mall. Like we would go to Mall of America. We'd go to these. We wouldn't do any museums and things like that. That would really, bring some
you
culture.
educated the price tags.
That's right. That's right. I've been doing market research all my life. So I love the boutique, just that feeling when you walk into a store and you feel inspired and just excited. And I don't know, that just gave me that like real giddy feeling anytime I would walk into a boutique or a mall. And I really remember writing a paper on it in college. I forget what it was about. I think it was like, write your goals out. And really, I could tell you where my boutique was going to be. It was going to be on a corner in a neighborhood. And I could even tell you the car I was going to drive. And I just followed my heart the whole way. And I have a really supportive family and group of friends and my husband and kids. And they just help me do it every day.
Is it scary though, knowing, because it's not, I think all of our jobs, it's not consistent income, and and everything is based on what you love,
Right.
and what your style is. Was that scary at the beginning, just to be like, did you start with like a business loan? Or are you like, I'm putting everything that I have in this? And did you ever second guess, like, I hope this works? I hope this, like, or did you just know?
Sure. I would second guess it and I would say, oh gosh, maybe I'll go into teaching because I always wanted to be a teacher. I don't know. But then really, I've always been a very glass half full type of girl. Like I've always been really positive and just always just felt like things were going to work out. I don't know. Maybe it's just like this ignorance is bliss type of mindset, but I've always been so passionate about it. I don't feel like not doing that and not following my heart and not doing Hale House is ever really an option.
What about, like, so when you began the boutique, I don't think social media was like extreme like it is.
No.
Did you see a change in your business?
Oh, yes.
Because if you follow at Shop Hale House, you'll see Becca does all the outfits.
And the cute boomerangs.
And the cute,
How do you do that move, Becca? Teach me.
Becca's
well,
the
let me show
only,
you, honey.
yeah, Becca's the only person that keeps boomerangs chic.
Oh, I don't know.
Wait, Becca, when did you start Hale House?
So we
Timeline.
started in 2011. I lived in Chicago and I was working for a boutique there called Vintage Charm. And I told myself I'd live in Chicago for 3 years and then move back to Texas. And then I worked as I leased apartments over in West 7th over here. And I just remember just being kind of miserable. Just like, oh gosh, I had to like wear clothes that I didn't love every day. And then there was a spot on Montgomery that came up for lease, and it has a big airplane on a pole. And I don't know. I was like, I think that's my new location, because I actually started out of an Airstream before that. So I would do pop-up shops on the side when I was leasing apartments.
Where was this Airstream? In your like driveway?
So
On the side?
yeah, girl. Yeah, it was outside. No, my dad. So my dad bought it while I still lived in Chicago, and I thought I was going to have like it was kind of when food trucks just started, and so I was thinking I'm going to sell pearl snap shirts and cowgirl boots out of this thing. That's what I wanted to do in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
wow.
I know. Can you imagine? Like,
No,
someone
you would have been
asking-
like way ahead of the trend too, because now it is all about cowgirl chic right now.
It is. But I mean, who would buy a pearl snap shirt and cowboy boots in Chicago?
Going down Michigan Avenue.
I know, like, hey. I know. But it was that positiveness. I was like, oh, it's going to work,
This is good. They're going to love this.
Yes. So fortunately, I moved home before I tried that. So I just tried it at home. And so I really started out in vintage because I love Round Top. I love shopping for just random knickknacks and things like that. So I started out as home and gift because I was really scared actually to get into clothing because you have to buy deeper and it's just not a guaranteed sell. But then, so I don't know, once I started in clothing, I realized like that's where I was happier. I love clothes so much.
And you're so freaking good at it. So when this online presence, like when did you start this like boomerang? Like when I feel like Hale House blew up.
Yes. So it was during COVID. It was really, yes.
This is like, can I just say as her best friend, this is like the thing that I'm most proud of her for. Like the world shut down when she gave birth to her daughter. And she came home and like on one arm, she's breastfeeding Mia and the other, she's like writing out a game plan. Like she just did it.
Yeah. I mean, but that's my glass half full. I mean, I remember being on the phone with one of my friends or, like a mentor and saying, oh my gosh, Doug, how like, I've got it because I heard that that China wasn't going to ship any more goods, And
Oh,
so
I
I'm
forget about that. Yes.
And
so you had
so
no inventory.
I would have
really.
no inventory. So I'm like, I've got to get the goods. And he was like, Becca, I love how positive you are, but
You're not getting the goods.
you're not getting the goods, but you don't want the goods right now. Like you don't want to take on that financial
this, yeah.
risk because people aren't buying. They're not going to buy anything. And I'm like, oh, well, yes, they are. Because that's just that,
Yeah, people aren't leaving their houses, and you're like, I'm gonna buy. They let them buy new outfits
Yes.
every day for their home.
Yes. And so truly, I mean, I am a glass half full girly, and it was, we shut down. So I had Mia March 7th. The shutdown was what, like the 11th?
Mhm.
And then we had Easter. And so I'm thinking, and so by Easter, women, I can't remember if it was early or late that year, but we had enough time and enough inventory to really push Easter decor and Easter dresses. Because one thing that people were still doing was they may or may not have gone to church, but they were going to have an Easter egg hunt outside.
Yep.
And they wanted pictures and they wanted to feel normal again. And so,
I remember that was like the first time we saw all of my family together.
yes.
And we did it outside.
Yeah.
And my grandfather wore like the bunny suit, so he was protected from all of us. And they sat like 6 feet
Sweet.
away.
Oh.
But you're so right though. But to think of that is
Right.
unbelievable to know people still want to feel like
Normal.
they belong.
Right.
And that we're here and that we're
Yes.
okay. And so
Yeah.
many people had lost so many people at that moment.
Right.
And so you wanted to be happy.
Sure.
I just remember sitting there being like, I miss being happy.
Normal.
Yes.
I know.
And not having to like think if I coughed, my grandparents wouldn't make it.
right.
That was I remember, yes, Easter was such a monumental
Mm-hmm.
time check during
Right.
COVID.
Yeah.
So what were you like, I'm gonna model these myself and just put it out there?
Oh my gosh, but I just had a baby. So I'm like, not
feeling so chic.
Oh yeah, honey. I'm like, ooh, I needed a spray tan. I needed to, yeah. But so we, everybody had to close down, right? And so basically I told my employees, I said, hey, I mean, that was our livelihood. It was their livelihood. It was my livelihood. I'm like, if you want to have a job, if you want to be paid, like we still need to go into work. And so that's when we started in-store pickups. And so that's what really forced us to go online more. We already had a very small presence, but we didn't have a lot of time to focus on it because we were so in-store driven for sales at the time. And then COVID really gave us that opportunity to take a break from the store and really focus putting it online, but then we would do in-store pickups. So I even remember my mom's like favorite pickup story was when Eric came to pick up
All my stuff?
Yeah, all your stuff. She was like, honey, this cute boy was outside and he smiled at me and he had the whitest teeth. It's
Yeah, 1883, they hated on those teeth, those
Oh,
beautiful white teeth of his. But I'm sorry, still, like, that's a story for another day. But
Oh my gosh.
Taylor, they had them all have like blacked out teeth at first for 1883. And Eric shows up and Taylor's like, get that shit off your teeth. So all you haters out there, you could call Taylor because they wanted them to have those gorgeous white teeth. No, I was obsessed Still obsessed. It's all I wear.
Oh my gosh.
Anytime I get stopped in the street, they're like, what are you wearing? Hale House.
Hale House.
Where'd you buy that? Well, at Katey McFarlan. How'd you look so healthy? Taylor Duke's Wellness.
Exactly.
I mean, I am fully covered. Okay, I want to talk a little bit because I always giggle. I think people have not a bad idea, but when you think about Texas, you think about we're just these homemakers and our men are going to work for us. And I remember being raised by both my parents, but my dad always being opposite. Like my brother could work for the family company and saying, you go. You dream as big as you can and make it happen. And it's amazing to me, to be honest, is most of my girlfriends here are the breadwinners for their family, which I think people think Texas, that's rare. They just didn't expect that. And I feel like almost all of my friends here are working moms, have to be still having babies, having these insanely successful businesses. Is that hard sometimes? Is being either not the sole provider, but being kind of people have this idea of, and for me, it's hard. I'm trying to be the best mom I can, the best business owner, the best friend I can be. I mean, everything. It's just, and then your kids are like, I'm trying to make every appointment, but trying to make deadlines and trying to, how is that on y'all? Who wants to begin with that question?
I think you almost like count back with your kids. Becca knows this about me. I'm like, okay, if we go to a birthday party Saturday and I have a really big shoot Monday, so-and-so will get this from Chuck E. Cheese and then get sick Monday at 2. And mommy has a shoot we cannot reschedule at 3 o'clock. So yeah, we're not going to that birthday party. Those are things that I think sometimes I'm like, I wish I didn't have like the mental math of all of that, because I feel like you're thinking of everything for work, everything for mom, but you're also thinking of what are the consequences of when you merge both and try to be really good at both?
No, it's so true.
I normally think of.
Yeah, and Molly Morgan, we're on, as you all know, like the classroom group text. Well, Mick's teacher, she's not a big texter. We usually get it on the app. Well, this day I got a text saying it was Western Day because we celebrate, rodeo season here. Well, I was thinking because I got the text, I was in the middle of recording, that it was Molly Morgan. So Molly Morgan showed up to school and she goes to a uniform school with full Western on. And y'all remember this picture with her pink hat and fur, and she just lived her best life. And I was like, oh my God, thank goodness that she's only 4. Yeah. And she repped it and her teachers let it. But I was like, if I would have made this mistake in kindergarten or first grade, I think it could have been a different story. And I just remember all these other moms and I just feeling like so bummer. Like I'm like, I should have read the memo. And I have this sweet friend, Shelby Simpson, and I'm always like, Shelby, do we have an Easter party? Or Shelby, because I'm so not embarrassed by her. But it's so hard sometimes because I'm like, I'm trying my best and I just can't do it all.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I remember when this happened to you. And side story, this literally happened to me and Bo. I'm not kidding. 3 weeks later. Truly.
I cursed you.
I sent Bo, I thought it was grandparent, or the 100th day. I sent Bo as a grandpa to school. I spray painted his hair silver. He had like a
He
cane.
looked like Johnny Cash. It was cool.
I mean, well, because I knew that we were going to miss rodeo day at our school because it was like maybe it was only like a week later.
No, I think it was like
the next
this
day.
happened to me like Wednesday and this happened to you like Friday.
Truly,
I mean, it was
you're so
truly,
right. Yeah.
I cursed you.
Yeah, no, and he's in kindergarten, so yeah, it was. And I was like, Bo, like, how did that make you feel? And he was like, fine, my hair looks great. And I was like, thank goodness.
Oh, I love boys.
I know.
so confident.
And, like, he did not care. And so the teachers called and they were like, hey, do you want to bring him clothes? And we were like, sure. We took him clothes. He never changed. He was like, I look great.
What a baller.
I mean, he wasn't, he's not that, he's not conceited at all.
Yes,
But he's just,
no, he was fine with it.
Like, he loved his
But he's
silver
confident.
hair.
He's like, you know what? It's okay.
Yeah. So
Oh, no, it is so freaking true.
we try to do our best, but sometimes we just can't.
Sometimes, and I think it's hard for me, especially my mom was a stay-at-home mom. And I have that guilt sometimes, like when talking to her. Because I do think our generation really tries to be these working moms.
Sure.
And we're not putting ourselves first. But in my mind, I'm doing this to put my family first.
Definitely.
Where I feel like a lot of time their generation was putting their family first by time and care. And that was their sole purpose in life. And my children are my sole purpose. But I just remember waking up one day and just being like, well, when they're gone, Eric, it's like just me and you. And if I have done everything in my life for them, like, what am I to give them anymore?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would have done my job for only 18 years.
Right.
And I know you're a parent forever, but if it's just 18 years of it's like baseball players. It's like, you only have a couple of years. If that is it, what will be my worth one day when that is done, when they're 18 and kind of starting their own lives?
Mm-hmm.
So I remember just that turning point being like, what is going to be my worth? What is saying to you? And I'm so amazed by these moms that worth are being stay-at-home moms, because I wish anything in the world. There's always this big debate is like, what's harder, a working mom or a stay-at-home mom? Let me tell you, both are freaking hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And both suck, and both are rewarding,
Yes.
and both are amazing. There is no hard, no easy. It is, because let me tell you, Eric has been a stay-at-home dad sometimes, and he comes back and he's like, how do you do this? It is so freaking hard when all you do all day is watch Bluey and try to entertain them 155 times.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about mom guilt and receiving online comments, because I think a lot of people, I am new to the online hate game, and it is not a game I'd like to be a part of. But when you put yourself out there and the more vulnerable you get, the more backlash or comments or opinions. Do you remember that first comment, or do you remember how long it took to navigate those? And I feel like, Katey, especially, you get a lot of this because so much of your platform is your life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes we get to hide behind, voiceover or a store or medicine or wellness, where you are, this is who I am and this is my family, which I think is so amazing and so vulnerable. Do you remember what that was like?
I do. I was on my apartment patio, and I found it because, I was still working at a PR firm, and back then it was, you had Google alerts for your name to see if your press release got published for your brand. And so, or for your client. And so every day I had to insert my media impressions to the clients. And so I got a Google alert for my name, and I was like, oh, great, my press release got picked up. And it came up like a forum, and someone was saying, I went to college with her, and now she's kind of doing blogging, kind of doing PR. She's floundering, da-da-da-da-da. And I was on the patio, and I called one of my best friends, Taylor. And this is why I loved 40 Under 40 with you. But I remember being on the phone with her, and I'm 21 or 22 at the time, and I'm crying. And I'm like, you know what? It's going to be fine. I'm going to win 40 Under 40 one day, and she's going to know I'm not floundering. And that was just my thing, because I was like, I'm not floundering. I'm working multiple jobs at once. And so when we got that together, I remember telling Melissa and Jamie Ice, being like, this, I don't know why, but it puts a Band-Aid on 21-year-old me, being like,
Redeems that
yeah,
comment
it
and
redeems
experience.
it. But I think, honestly, now that I've done this for almost 12 years, so a lot of the bloggers I work with at an agency will keep a Google Drive of people that in their IP addresses. It's all the same people. They are hurting people. And I think that you're like, oh, so-and-so in Jacksonville, Florida, she told me
Deborah, it's always
this. And
Deborah.
we know all of that. And she's like, oh, well, she told me that last week. And so it softens the blow a little bit, but I do have a binder of I've printed off really horrible ones. So when my kids come to me and they're like,
Katey.
no, not for that. But when my kids come to me and they're like, Mom, I don't know what social media is going to be out when they're 16. And they're going to be like, I want TikTok. I'm going to be like, if you can read this binder and not be impacted, go get social media.
That's a good idea.
If you can't not
I'm
be
borrowing the binder.
impacted, this is what social media does.
And is it hard when people make comments and they don't actually know you? Because that's the hardest with me. I'm like, you don't know my life or don't know my experiences. You don't know my marriage. You don't know me.
They
You
don't.
think
And
you
they're
know me.
and they're mostly wrong, So I think Becca knows I clap back if it's about my kids or my dog, but other than that, I just block and be blessed.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Do you block? Are you quiet? Sometimes you
If
feel
it's
the
a
need to
product, I'm like, block you, be blessed, go on your way. But if it's about my kid or my dog, I'm gonna call you out. I'm gonna start if you can bully me on the internet, I want your friends to know if you talk about this stranger, she's talking about you,
And about your kid. What's
yeah.
baffling is people have the balls to talk about kids. That is baffling to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, they're kids.
Mm-hmm.
It is so weird to me how you could ever, I can't tell you, not to kids, but how many times I've, seen something and be like, oh, I would love to write a mean comment. But you just don't.
No,
You don't.
can't.
No.
It's just, it's mean.
Yeah.
And people will say, well, you're putting yourself out there. Your kids are on the internet. 99.999% of people have a digital footprint. Like, even if you don't blog, people post their kids potty training on Facebook. And I'm like, well, I wouldn't do that. You know, like everybody has their comfort of what they would and wouldn't do. It doesn't give you a right to be mean and ugly.
No. Do you ever get that, sister? Do you ever
Hate
get
comments?
Yes.
I've gotten a few. I feel like I've been protected. Thankfully, maybe God just knows I've gone through so much crazy that I can't handle more crazy on the internet.
Oh.
I have gotten, I would say, a couple in the last 6 months specifically. It's just like with growth and vulnerability comes criticism. And there's one recently that was just like, this girl's faking cancer. The whole thing's fake. And that's when I was just like,
Whoa.
like block, delete. You know, I think what really bothers me too is people. One thing I feel like I've gotten 2 comments that are memorable over years. So I've been really, and maybe I don't read all my comments, so that's part of my problem.
No, but
if
isn't
I
it
did,
weird though? We remember. I was just talking to Eric about this. You really do remember those moments. I talked about this on our premiere. You 99% are amazing, and you get one not,
and you're just like,
and that's the one you sit at, and you remember, and it stinks. I mean, I sit like that. Okay, so keep going.
No, I'm almost done. But the only thing I was going to say is what bothers me is when people get into a lot of chatter in my comments, and I'm like, I am not providing this content to be a platform for people to get into it. Like, that's just not my heart. That's not who I am. And so I don't want to create this space. So there's been times where people don't even say anything mean about me, but they're going at other people in the comments. And I'm just like, block, delete. Because I don't want to host an environment where that's just not me. That's not my heart. And so that's where it's just like, but I've been really blessed. But we get a couple, Deborah's, Karen's, whatever you want to call it. It happens. You know?
I know. Don't you feel bad for poor, like the girls that are named Karen?
I know.
That before Karen became a thing. I think about them all the time. I'm like, God, poor real life
And
Karen.
really, the Karens I do know are like the nicest people.
Kindest.
They're so sweet. They live in South Carolina. They'll bake you cookies. And like,
Poor
we're over here
Karen.
like, Karen.
No, that name got destroyed. I truly feel so bad for Karen. Do you ever see backlash too? I was wondering, with your treatment, you didn't do basic chemo or didn't do chemo. Do you ever see backlash with trying more the Western medicine or?
I feel like I really haven't gotten a lot. We've gotten a few emails. My team kind of protects me from stuff.
Okay.
But I do feel like my story was just like this miraculous. Like it wasn't like, and I'm not trying to tell people don't do this. I'm like, some people actually need chemo. Some people's cancer responds really well. But brain cancer, the prognosis, it's not great. So it's almost like, what do you have to lose, So I feel like because of the type of cancer that I was diagnosed with, odds aren't really in your favor anyway. So why wouldn't you? I mean, I'd do anything. Like go
Try
spit on your
everything.
head, go hop over to India, whatever,
Freaking meant.
But I do think that, my story has also brought a lot of hope and encouragement to people to advocate for themselves. And when you hear the cancer word, like it truly, like most people, and what I've tried to tell people is do not lose hope. This is not a death sentence. People get diagnosed and I'm like, first of all, this is not a death sentence. And so trying to reframe, and it is a really serious and it does still take people disease and all of that. But I feel like I also did a very different approach. And I'm sure a lot of people had opinions, like family members, probably friends, like, what is she doing going to Mexico? But I think what I also got to share, which was really God gets the glory, not my integrative treatments, but like my brain tumor shrunk in half before surgery, which is unheard of. And so that's where people can't like deny. Like I'm like, when you have a brain tumor that shrinks within 5 months without even going inside my head before surgery, like you can't really deny that.
It works.
And the other thing too, like, I had brain surgery February 1st of last year. So a little over a year ago, I had surgery 6 hours, hour after brain surgery. I'm like talking, smiling, making jokes, pretty high on medicine, but like able to fully move, talking to my husband 6 hours after brain surgery. I'm walking, even my nurses in ICU were like, this is not normal, And so I think people saw like, this is a testament to how she prepared her body. And so it's not this like criticism. It's more this like, whoa, what are you doing? It's like this inspiring.
I mean, you inspire me all the freaking time. Meanwhile, after this, I'll probably eat McDonald's. Don't hate
With
me.
a Diet Coke.
With
but
my
shame.
Diet Coke.
I
I'm
wanted
like,
to say this when you were talking about like mom guilt with your boys and leaving, but like I don't know, I can't tell you how many group texts I'm in of people, of friends of mine being like, oh, I have to go get a follow-up mammogram or I have to get this cyst biopsied and I'm nervous, but they're like, okay, but Taylor did it. Like Taylor did it. And so I think that that's the thing that you also think about when you are leaving to go for these treatments. Like your boys are little now, but when they're 10, 11, 12, there's going to be people that come up to them and they're like, your mom was the reason I went and got this scan, And so it's like you have the guilt
So
now,
sweet.
but there's like this generational impact that then will stay with them,
That's
Oh my
so dear.
God,
And I think,
that was
I'm like,
so
you brought tears to
true.
my eyes. But I also think that's something for all of us, not just with me and the cancer stuff. It's like, I think the sacrifices that we're making now and the unsexy things that we're doing and the pressures and the deadlines, whether it's working with a brand and feeling like junk and not wanting to get dressed and get cute and going to market and filming a podcast when you're tired and weary. It's like we're all making sacrifices that our kids don't understand now. But I think one day they're going to see like the grind and the effort that we put in. And I also think that we also get to enjoy. Like we get to go on fun trips and make memories. And work has afforded us really unique opportunities.
And we
I
do
think
it for them.
I think our kids see that and they're only going to understand that more. But at times it feels like this is a huge sacrifice and this stinks. But I do think it's already yielded a lot of fruit and will continue
And what's
to.
so interesting, I feel like I get more judgment from other moms than I actually do like thinking about our kids or online. Like what's so interesting is like I think people need to be reminded like to each their own and give people grace, and you never know what somebody's going through. And yes, this is like our online persona, but they weren't with you in the room actually like what you were feeling. I always say we get to show the bright side. Like what I sang earlier. They're not with you, when you're having to leave all your school events and having to go to market or having to, leave a special moment because you have a deadline. I mean, they're not there during those moments. Like the I feel like all of us, we probably all have sat in the car and cried and just been like, I'm trying my best. I mean, I literally had a girlfriend over and I just would be like, what do you want from me? Like, I am just trying. I can't. Nothing is ever that deep. I'm just trying to like survive and just trying to do life pretty good and trying to do it for my family.
Sure.
You know?
And I feel like we just all do it so differently. Like, yes, like our lives are really played out on social media. But I mean, maybe if you don't have a job that, isn't on social media, I feel like that's done differently too. And like our moms did it differently. And I think it's just, we're just doing our best. Like we don't really know what it's supposed to look like anymore. Like we're just navigating it the best way possible. And I feel like we're all really fortunate to have super supportive husbands that aren't too proud to support us.
The best
And I
husbands,
think that's so huge.
And my husband always says, he's always like, you don't know who, like he kind of ties it in with our kids and who they're going to marry. He's always like, what if our boys need to see a working mom so that they can be supportive for who they're going to marry? Like you can't question God, like what he has planned for them. And so you can't question why your job is the way that it is because your kids are seeing that example so they know what to do. Because I felt like in our generation, like we didn't have this online thing where moms could kind of do both. And I felt like this when I went to college, kind of paralyzed of like, well, I've always wanted to be a mom my whole life. And then I've always been passionate about something, but nowhere along the lines did anybody tell me how to do both. And I feel like our generation is the first that's kind of having to be like, you don't have to pick either or, but you have to blend. And I think what's going to be cool is seeing our kids' generation seeing how to blend it and then what all they can add to it.
Yeah, but for us, there's like no handbook. It's not
There's
like,
not.
hey, Betty, how did you do this? And what was the steps that you took?
How do you make the
It's
pie?
like, and I was actually at lunch, and a lot of my mom friends are stay-at-home moms. They just are, and they play tennis and they do that and they have fun. And I would totally get bored. Like I tell my husband, I'm like, sometimes I just want to like, just, it'd be fun.
I do it
Just,
for a
like,
day. And then I'd be like, okay, that was fun.
But
Loved it.
I was talking to them and I'm like, y'all, I think being a stay-at-home mom is harder. Like some days it's easier for me to leave the house, go to work, or go upstairs and work upstairs. But something that all my mom friends kind of affirmed to me of is they were like, Taylor, you're doing work and then you're doing the mom stuff. And the mom duties don't, like, who takes the kids to the doctor? Who takes the kids to the dentist? Who signs them up for summer camp? I mean, it's a constant thing, I think, in all of our heads. My husband's super helpful and hands-on, but I'm like, did you get the Easter basket? He's like, wait, what?
Oh.
The school party?
Don't even get me started on those types of things.
I was about to say my
both.
And that was my round
I'm
top.
supportive until,
No, but that's what's
all
hard.
fun and
It's like,
games.
we're being moms. We're being very present moms. We're not wanting, I have to outsource a lot to do what I do, whether it's things in the home, the house,
Same.
whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I think we all do. But it's also like we're still mom and we still want to be present moms and helpful moms. And we still have the Rolodex in our head of when is summer camp and are we doing swim lessons and on a sick day. moms usually step in, and
Oh,
go to the
yes.
doctor. And so I think that when they said that, I was like, I've never thought of it that way. We're doing both, and it's hard.
Oh, Lord, laying down at bedtime, I'm just like, brrrr, like how many things in my mind I have to do. And then you just pray to God to sleep. And then you're like, oh, and then work. That's all just for Molly, Morgan, and Mick. And my other son, Eric, out there.
My other son.
It's like my other son that I have to. Okay, we like to end, and I just want to thank you all for being so vulnerable and kind. And thought it'd be fun to have a little trio podcast, I guess like foursome podcast. We like to end each episode with your glamour and grit. So your glamour could be like of your day, of life, anything. Your grit could just be gritty. My glamour today is being with 3 of the most amazing women in my life. And my grit is having to worry if you can see my panties this whole podcast. That's been
We're being up until 4:30 a.m.
Yeah, and being up till
That.
4, working on the premiere of this podcast. As you all know, the celebrity interviews are done, pre-recorded. So we premiered the show last night. So hopefully y'all are all streaming it. Taylor, what's your glamour and your grit?
My glamour, I'm like being here with these cute girls dressing up on Good Friday,
Amen,
like,
Good Friday.
But I think, okay, my grit.
But it's Monday.
Grit can be real. Yeah, Celebrity Monday.
Celebrity Monday.
My grit, I would say, is, the rest of the world has Good Friday off. It's a paid time off thing, and my store inventory is messing up. So if you go to my website, everything's showing out of stock. We're switching third-party logistics, and people are like, oh my God, this supplement brand is blowing up. And I'm like, I can't annoy my employees because I want to protect their time off. And then also a gritty moment, it's like Good Friday, kids are out of school, we have childcare. I'm like, I got to get it ready for the podcast. So I literally, my nanny was like, hey, can we go to story time at the library? And I'm like, yeah. And I only have the car seats in my car. So I literally got ready for this podcast sitting in the Fort Worth Library parking lot doing my makeup so my kids can go to story time. And it's like, I wouldn't have it any other way. But if only people knew. Like, I'm dealing with inventory issues and doing my makeup in like a library parking lot.
And let me tell you, that parking lot is not too pretty. Is it our Fort Worth Library?
No,
Love
but
the Fort Worth
it has good
Library.
lighting.
It does, yeah, your makeup looks stunning. And what is your glamour? Did you say your glamour?
My glamour's being here.
Oh, here, being
I'm
here.
like,
Oh, God, you're so sweet.
I'm like, and looking cute
Glamour
on a
is in
Friday.
a
I'd probably
parking
be,
lot?
honestly.
Yes, glamour is the Fort Worth Library parking lot.
I love it.
It gave me a reason to get up and get cute.
What's your glamour and your grit?
Well, so actually, Bo and Mia were out, they're like, Mommy, where are you going? Mommy, where are you going in that outfit? I was like, I'm going to go to a podcast with Miss Sainty. And they're like, what are you going to talk about? And I said, glamour and grit. And they didn't want me to go because they're out of school today. And I'm like, okay, like the glamour is my family. And like at first when I was thinking about this, because you prepped us a little saying, hey, I'm going to ask you glamour and grit. And I was thinking, work is my glamour, right? Because it feels glamorous. Like I have to do those boomerangs and, it looks glamorous. But actually, that's really my grit. Like, I would say the glamour is my family. So, and y'all.
So good.
That made me cry.
I love y'all too.
Mia is pretty glamorous.
Oh my gosh.
She's a star.
She should really be the one
She
here.
should have her own influencer account.
Oh, my son,
She'd
he'll
really
come
show
home
us
and be
what
like,
to do.
I love, they're in the same class. He'll be like, I like Mia's pink new shiny shoes. I'm like, Becca, does she have pink shiny shoes? Or what's going on?
Yeah. Thanks to Katey, hand-me-down Gucci's.
Oh, my son loves
let's
them.
go.
Oh, yeah. She goes, Gucci.
We just go from Maxi's closet to Mia's closet and Bo's closet to Harry's closet.
It's the best way to do it. It is. Katie, what's your glamour and grit?
Well, my girlfriends know I'm we're 3rd trimester pregnant now, so very pregnant, and my body just doesn't thrive being pregnant. Like every other day I'm texting them, I'm like, oh, I'm in the hospital with kidney stones, or oh, we're vomiting, or oh, we're this. So my grit this season of life and today is just like, okay, body, don't break down anymore. But my glamour is I've gotten to do some cool things pregnant with this little one, Like this is his first
He's
podcast.
been traveling.
He's well traveled.
He is moving and grooving.
He is like gonna put on his resume, was in a podcast in the womb. So
I mean, by the time this premieres, you probably will be having him. How
Oh my
crazy is
gosh.
that?
let's wait as long as we can.
Not trying to scare you, but guys, everybody, please follow their accounts. And thank you. See you on Friday.
Glamour.
Grit. Glamour.
Grit.